Hello everyone, welcome along to Chargers TV. We're going podcast version for our opening show. Roll Riggs, Justin Bryan again with you for season 2024. And JB, as we're just having a bit of a look around here at Swisher Hoops Academy, that's where we're doing this podcast from. Great to see all the kids are out and about, getting ready for their upcoming junior season very soon. Hello to you, by the way.
G'day, mate. How you going? I mean, we're pretty busy men right now. Of course, we do we do preface the fact we are doing the podcast with there are changes coming, Ronald. There is a fair bit of work going on behind the scenes, and we are sort of across all of that. And there's, I think we'd call it baby steps at the moment.
Yes.
But we are working through. Of course, one of them is the fact that trying to squeeze in some sort of content has been tough with work and with basketball commitments, so we are getting this podcast out where we can. Of course, thank you for tuning in and listening to us here. We'll try and cover as much as we can. There's been a bit going on. There's still a bit to go. Of course, we're heading into the derby, so we're pretty much just getting our first look at what teams are going to be like, what our opposition's going to be like. But yeah, hopefully over the next week or two we'll be able to reveal a hell of a lot more team-wise, and by then, Ronnie, I reckon we'll be slowly and steadily on the straight and narrow.
Yeah, absolutely, JB. So, of course, the men's and women's team tip off on Saturday night up in Launceston and Alberton, respectively, taking on the Launceston Tornadoes and the Northwest Thunder, and of course, which is the what we would call the traditional season opener. And for the second year running, the derby away to instead of us.
And we are splitting venues, though, Ronnie, this time. Last year we were both up in Ulverston covering the respective games. However, going the Great Divide this year, I'll be venturing up to Launceston and the great people up there. Shout out to David Moore and the crew at City Park Radio, who are looking forward to having me run around courtside for them, Ronnie.
There you go.
I've heard on the grapevine there that you have had the open door policy from the Northwest Thunder to go up and say good day.
Absolutely. No, it's good forming networking and relationships with our arch rivals, and we're all good mates away off the court, so they know I'm coming, and I'm looking forward to seeing everyone up on the Northwest on Saturday night. So before we dwell into that, let's dwell into some league news. And Mitsubishi Motors have come on board as naming rights sponsors. Now, we have kind of talked about this late last year, we did talk about this late last year because it's the first time we've been on air together.
For 2024, absolutely.
Bar the UBL last week.
Of course.
So, Mitsubishi coming on as name rights sponsors, and looking forward to having their contribution. Bartercard have come on board as well too. We have a script read to do during home games, JB, which I need to make sure I send out to you as well too.
I reckon that probably be in my wheelhouse by the sound of it, Ronnie, the live read, so to speak. But yes, good to have Mitsubishi Motors on board. Of course, they have supported basketball in the past. It's good to have them back on again. I don't know whether we're going to be able to have the Lancer or the Magna lowered from the ceiling at any of the venues we play at, Ronnie. We might get one out in the car park doing a bit of a toot and a beep. But no, it's always key as well to have some really solid naming right partners and great supporters of the league. And of course, a big thank you to Coles Express for their previous support of the league over the last couple of years. But it's great to have Mitsubishi Motors on board, and can't wait for them to be on journey for what's bound to be, the next step in what NBL1 is nationally, Ronnie, particularly starting in 2024.
Absolutely, and we cannot ignore, JB, because I'm seeing so many green jerseys around the place, we cannot ignore the fact that the Jack Jumpers have just won the NBL Championship for season 23-24. A massive congratulations to Scott Roth and his team, and just a quick one from us, JB. Obviously, you and I have attended the games throughout the season and thoroughly enjoyed them.
Absolutely. Thoroughly enjoyed them.
And good on the Jack Jumpers, because they've caused a bit of a spark around the place, and hopefully that momentum can shift into the Chargers season as well too.
Well, we've been around Swisher, Ronnie, since its inception, and we've seen all of the development of the Jack Jumpers there, and the popularity and the rise of the Jack Jumpers amongst the kids, and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, you've only got to look here. We're looking at a drill that's seeing every second child right now running around with a Jack Jumpers jersey on, Ronnie. So, no, massive congratulations to them. A massive spark, and, we can only hope that continues to spur on the interest in the game, not only at that elite level, but right throughout the pathways that we're seeing, not only here at juniors, where you're seeing under 8s and under 10s sort of having their first training sessions ever, to, people wanting to push through to that NBL1 level with the Chargers.
Yes.
And, considering some of the players we're going to talk about, players that are on the verge are already in that NBL system. So, it's good to see there's now a clear and concise pathway. And especially in front of a lot of these kids' eyes, success is obtainable and it can happen right in your backyard.
Absolutely. And, of course, we should mention, you talk about pathways, we talk about one of our own locals. Jacob Richards, of course, signed a DP contract with the Jack Jumpers, and he was thoroughly involved in the celebrations on Sunday night as well too. So massive congratulations to Jacob, and he'll be captaining the Hobart Chargers men's side this season as well too. So it's going to be a big year for Jacob coming up. Yeah,
massive year. And Ronnie, there's a big difference between a practice player and a development player, and a lot of people don't realise it. Jacob worked his backside off to get that there, and I know, having spoken to Coach Stewart over the last couple of years, Jacob has instilled a vast amount of professionalism to those that are aspiring to be in Jacob's spot, And it's just the little things. It's coming in and shaking hands with everybody that's training, whether it is the players on the court, whether it's the people that's running the shot clock there, people that are strapping you, people that are getting you drinks, ice, providing the lollies, the person sweeping the floor. Jacob gets around and he's just sort of showing the guys that, hey, if you want to get to that level, you've got to be at that level, and it starts from the ground up. And it's something that Jacob's brought in. Of course, in the women's side, Ronnie, we do have a player particularly who's re-signed on for a second year. She's right in the thick of it as well. Of course, we're talking about Captain Clint Steindl there in the Jack Jumpers, but Kayla Steindl joining us as well. She's very much wrapped up in it as well. But in her own right, as we've talked about before, Ronnie, an absolute champion of a player, has seen success where she's come from, and same sort of thing you would have to imagine, that's got to be an inspiring story, not only for the girls as well, to see Kayla's working her backside off, she's juggling the family life, seeing everything that Clint's doing as well. There's more to basketball than just bouncing the ball and shooting hoops. Kayla is an absolute shining light in that area there. She's the epitome of leadership on our women's team, and I think, Ronnie, it's going to be massive to have her back on board as well in 2024.
Absolutely, and we're going to catch up with Kayla in a few weeks' time. We'll sit down and do a bit of a podcast with her as well too, amongst some of the other Chargers players that I have lined up, JB. So we're going to do some extra content with our players this year, and make sure we try to get to know them a little bit more, but try to give them a little bit of spotlight as well too. Let's throw ourselves into both the teams that are currently put together at the moment, and we can start off with the women's team, JB. They're building up nicely. Obviously, they've signed their imports in Jada Jansen and Sierra Walker, and of course Zoe Richards, who's an unrestricted player from New Zealand.
Yes.
And then of course we have our local talent. Now we're going to flash up the names up on the screen.
Yeah, do a bit of a roster call there for those that are wondering. Of course, we've talked about Kayla Steindl, Ronnie, who's coming back into this team. She's pretty much going to be captaining this side as that veteran presence there. Zoe Banks will come in, and of course she's got a really strong leadership role right now with the women's UBL side.
Well,
so
she's captaining the team,
exactly,
JB, and the day of recording, I just commentated her UBL game as well too, and she really stepped up today as well, and really impressed guest commentator Cal Bruden, who's in the building as well too, JB.
Yeah, well, Zoe has just come off the round 2 player of the week in the UBL as well, so setting a really nice standard. Of course, you do have some of the stalwarts of the team over the last couple of years. You do have a Ruby Erin, you do have a Pia Rhodes, you do have a Leah Bartlett, you do have an Alex Finlayson. You do
she's been around since day one.
Absolutely. I mean, you also have some players that have really stepped up over the last couple of years, Ronnie. Chloe Broomhall had a massive year last year. In fact, I personally thought was a shoo-in for Coaches Award last year. She really broke out. Coco Erin, another player. Claire Murray, another player there. Just going through, you've also got an Ellie Ferguson who's seen minutes, but also seeing some more, some younger players and some newer players coming in as well. When you talk about the likes of an Andy Smith, who's had an absolutely astounding junior stint over the last 12 months, and Eva Schultz as well, joining name ranks.
And of course, them two are just about to go away with the State Under-18 National Junior Championship team for Tasmania, and that all kicks off this weekend as well too, JB. So congratulations to Andy and Eva there on their selection.
Absolutely, and I mean, that just sort of speaks to the depth you're talking about right now. We're talking about former and current state players. We're talking about young women who are genuine SBL senior women leaders and tearing that league up. Players that are getting offers to go up to the NWBU and play in the Northwest Coast. Players, as we mentioned, that have been around the program for a long time. Players that are now stepping up into that senior role at a young age in the program. And, of course, they're going to be mixing it up with some really seasoned veteran talent who have played all over the world and are still representing at a really high level. So, there are some different faces around. Of course, we had Angie Vinceleu, we had Corey Coleman last year, and we had Paige Bradley after a couple of seasons. They're not, unfortunately, looking like they're going to be returning there, so we do thank them for their contributions. But, this is the 3-year plan for Coach Dwayne Davey. Rebuild a culture in year one. Let's try and build a solid foundation, get some wins, and really see where we're at in year 2. They were a genuine chance of making the playoffs last year. A couple of slip-ups just didn't go their way. Well, I think right now in season 3, you look at that list, you look at the developing talent, you look at those that are on the fringes, you know who's been training and everything like that. You're looking at a team that wants to start off round 1 with a bang. They want to avenge last year, which was really, really tough for them.
Yes.
But there's no doubt, we don't like talking about it, Ronnie, but I think that FINALS word will be one that is on a whiteboard somewhere, and it will have Hobart Chargers next to it, because that is the ultimate goal right now, to set this team in motion.
Absolutely.
And I think their game against Launceston will be a genuine litmus test against a Launceston team that hasn't been overly publicised.
Correct.
But is always a good young core with a lot of talent. We know a couple of the younger girls that have been up there for a while. I saw today Ava McDonald announced. I also saw Josie Pinkerton, who we've seen for the last couple of weeks in the UBL, star player, Ronnie.
A
player that can really control the game to that level. So this will be a good little test. And I think they want to get the ball rolling strong for their season.
Absolutely. And just talking to a few people around the traps as well too, that are closely connected with the women's team, speaking to a few of them, and they have seen the list, JB. They are telling me potentially they could be right up there in the top 4 in the competition this year as well too. So, and
I think that's a reasonable goal. I mean, they say shoot for the moon. If you miss, you're among the stars. Well, I think right now, you want to be on the moon. You do want the eagle to land. Ultimately, you do. But if your aim is top 4 and you finish top 8, well, you're still in the hunt. And I think setting yourself that reasonable goal, exactly where this team needs to be. Of course, if we're looking at a team that gets towards the halfway break in the season and it's struggling to be at 500, a lot of questions are going to be asked.
Yes.
There's no doubt about it, because we've seen the announcements on socials, and we'll be able to get that list up, and we'll get those players through as well. But when you've looked at the team that's announced and you've looked at the ability over the last couple of years, there's no doubt that the postseason is what hopefully is in mind and certainly beckons for this squad.
Absolutely. Let's go to the men's team now, and then we'll look ahead to obviously both the games coming up on Saturday night. The men's team have pretty much there's a return young core group, and we'll flash the list up on the screen as well too.
Bam.
There we go. And of course, Stewie has decided this year to introduce 2 development players, and Will Davey and Jackson Collins. And then when you look at that list that we've got there, that's a pretty handy young squad. No one older than, I think, 21 in that list there, JB?
For the most part, 21. Of course, you've got a couple of players there that are a little bit older. I mean, as we look on the list there, Ronnie, we spoke about Jacob Richards being announced.
Yes.
He's 23 years old.
Oh, yes.
Geordie Hargrave, 27, 28 years old.
Oh, yes, my apologies. I'm making Geordie younger, actually. Jeez.
What's that?
I'm making Jordan Hargrave younger when I mentioned...
You are very much. He's as old as me, Ronnie.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I'll take the compliment, though. 21 again. That's great.
Oh, yeah,
That's
okay.
awesome.
Actually, no, I'm giving compliments.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, backhander, but we'll get there. But, I mean, you look at that list there. Geordie Stratzman, 19, 20 years old. Geordie Hargrave, other side of 25, but a guy that's been around for quite a while now around the program. You're looking at a Harry Griffiths getting towards that 2021. Jordan Walker, 2021. Archie Stewart, he's only just turned 18, 19 years old. Alex Bestwick, 21, 22 years old. Noah Clark I'm seeing there as well, 18, 19 years old. You look at the other list that we talk about. I mean, Jacob Richards, as we mentioned, Ronnie, 23 years old as the captain of this team. Ollie Angerstein returning to the team there. You've also got Joe Chilcott, my age there. Beyonce Daniels, Terrell Brown, not as familiar with exactly how old they are there. But you're talking about high-end talent there at that point. Guys that have been around the system, that have played in the system, that know what's going on. So... yeah, it's going to be a really interesting mix. We're looking at some of those fringe players, and we'll hold off on those just compared to what we're looking at, Ronnie. Are we looking at that particular top section or the bottom one as well?
We're looking at both. We are looking at both, JB.
We are looking at both. Yeah. So as we mentioned, Will Davey, Jackson Collins signed as development players. Someone like a Jasper Hay, who's going places in 2 sports, statewide and nationally. Brooklyn Bruton's been around the program for a couple of years now. Caleb Nash, while he hasn't necessarily always been in the squad, has been around the program for a bit as well. Same with Xavier Clark, was in and out of the team last year. So we're not talking about a completely ignorant bunch of players, for lack of a better term, who are just coming in and, brand new system, brand new team. No, they've been about it for a while. You talk about who's been signed and who's going to be involved here, Ronnie. I mean, there's no reason why, this Chargers side who finished 9th last year aren't going to sit there and go, hey, we're going to be healthy. Hey, we've got some players around here. We're going to get in, we're going to have another crack at it, and we're going to get back to the playoffs.
Absolutely. I really see the men's side as a top 8 contender. I'm not necessarily sure about top 4 because some of the signings I've also seen around the league, JB, some teams are stacking up big time as well too. So it's going to be a tight tussle to crack that top 4.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's the thing with the men's program there, Ronnie. It can vary as well because, there's been plenty of times where we've looked at teams gone, oh, geez, they haven't started well. And then all of a sudden you get to the end of the season and you're just like, oh, they're still winning.
Yes.
Oh, they're playing well. They're gelling as a unit. So there's still a lot of water to go under the bridge. I mean, we'll have more in-depth coverage of these teams heading into our home game. But on paper, Ronnie, you're looking at 2 finals teams.
Yes.
And you're looking at 2 teams that know that's the next step, particularly for the women's who are at their 3rd stage of where they need to be. But on top of that, you look at the men's, they just missed out. So they've got to have a bit of fire in the belly. They've got to be hungry, and they're going to need to, want to take that next step. That has to be on the cards.
Absolutely, JB. And, well, we'll soon find out when this Saturday night rolls around. We'll throw back to the women's game, actually, and let's go for it. So Hobart taking on Launceston at the Elfin Sports Centre. 7 o'clock tip-off there.
7? I thought it was 6.
6? Double check, JB.
I am going to double check that one. You've got me concerned. I'm sure it was. I read 18. I'm sure I read 1800 on that one. Let me have a look.
Okay, have a look, JB. And of course, while JB is doing that, of course, you can catch all the games in the Mitsubishi NBL1 South by the NBL1 website or the NBL1 app. You can download that on your Google or Apple device.
NBL1 Plus will be your place to catch some of that action as well.
That too as well too. Sign up for NBL1 Plus. That is free to sign up as well too. So get amongst that. Of course, you can always follow the Hobart Chargers on their social media. Give us a like on Facebook. Give us a follow on Twitter. Give us a follow on Instagram. And you can subscribe to our YouTube channel as well too. So don't forget to keep up to date with all the goings on here at the Hobart Chargers. JB working...
6 o'clock.
There we go. 6 o'clock tip-off at the Elfin Sports Centre.
Apologies always accepted.
Yes, yes, absolutely. What are we expecting in this game, JB? Because the women will be keen to play. The Launceston women will be keen to play. There's been no pre-season matches for both of these teams, let alone the NBL1 South did go ahead with a blitz tournament over in Melbourne the other week. But I'm sure these 2 teams are rare to go. And I suppose for both Dwayne Dave and Sarah Veal, they're trying to work out, well, what am I going to get out of my team game 1?
It's going to be really interesting, as I mentioned, Ronnie, for a Hobart perspective. You've announced your players. You've brought some pretty big names in.
Yeah.
You are wanting to set that tone early that when you've got that full squad, you are a team to beat. Not the team to beat, but you are a team to beat. You're a team that wants to be winning at home, and you're a team that wants to be at least 50% on the road. So by that measure, you're a finals team. It's really tough because, as you mentioned, we haven't seen any pre-season games. Launceston are playing their cards to their chest very nicely, might I add. But at the same time, Launceston don't roll out weak teams. Launceston will not roll out a team of young 18, 19-year-olds that aren't at the level.
Correct.
You're going to see a lot of state players. You're going to see a lot of experienced players at a UBL sense or players that have been close to that NBL1 level elsewhere or to a high level at an under-22s. From an import standpoint, I'm not too sure, but I'm fairly confident Launceston aren't just going to be a team that lies down. I mean, we thought we were probably looking okay in comparison last year, Ronnie.
Yes.
And then Launceston absolutely wiped the floor, for lack of a better term, in the opening round. So that is something that Hobart is not going to want to happen this time. They are going to want to avenge it. And I think the big thing as well is you're going to see a lot of the players having been together, having continued to play. They're not coming in blind to it. They're not lacking, fitness. They're not struggling to get numbers on the floor. This is going to be a completely different team. Of course, Sarah O'Neill heading back up is a nice little get.
Yes.
We do thank Sarah as well. Had a really nice contribution last year to the Chargers program, but she's gone back up north. It's kind of strange to see, Ronnie. We're seeing a lot of places who were players who were familiar at one franchise now playing at others.
Yes.
But no, it's going to be really nice to see Sarah back in action, of course, albeit as an opposition player. But, yeah, there's no reason why this can't be a really competitive game. I'd be tipping the Chargers, I think, when you look at what's available to you knowledge-wise with teams, things of that nature, you do have to tip the Chargers. But I don't know. It could be anyone's ball game. Launceston playing their cards to their chest. While I think it's intriguing as a fan, it's as scary as a commentator because you don't know what you're going to get. I certainly think by the end of round 1, we will know where Launceston are going to be sitting, and we'll have a few more ideas as to who will be coming in and out of the team. Really exciting matchup, Ronnie. I think the Chargers girls get it. I think you're going to see vintage Kayla Steindl. I think you're going to see someone like a Chloe Broomhall, lifting her game again.
Yes.
You're going to see your Leah Bartlett's and your Pia Rhodes. Now, I know Pia. Now, did Pia play today?
No.
So you're probably going to suspect Pia with a bit of an ankle concern probably misses, but you've got Leah Bartlett, you've got the Aaron sisters.
Yes.
All of those kind of players that would be looking to get back involved in this one. Zoe Banks, I think you've got to take Chargers round 1.
Yep, I'm with you. And just speaking with Kayla Steindl a week or two back, she was mentioning to me, JB, that, she felt like they were miles ahead from where they were at that point in time
last year. Yeah, and that's the positive, that there's clear progression to be seen. Kayla's not going to mince her words. Kayla's a workhorse. Kayla celebrates everyone else's achievements, and she owns the mistakes like they're her own. That is A1 as a leader. That's what you want, but that's what breeds success.
Yes.
You've got to have that culture, and you've got to continue to breed that success. And look, if Kayla Steindl was going to tell me they're ahead of where they were 12 months ago, I've got no grounds whatsoever to question her on that.
Absolutely.
As I said, my only trump card there, Launceston are playing the cards close to their chest. I'd be really interested to see what they roll out.
It will be interesting, and of course it will be exciting for you, JB, as well too, being courtside reporter for the Launceston crew on their broadcast as well too. So I'm sure the viewers will be excited.
Yes, so if you are tuning in, of course, the folks covering at City Park Radio as well. Bit of a dual cast, a simulcast almost there, Ronnie. Not only on the airways of NBL Plus, but certainly through City Park Radio. Be good to be up there with Fozzie Moore and the gang getting in touch. Not sure who's co-commentating, whether it's Brownie or Simon Austin or who's involved there, but know all the crew up there. That'll be really good. And, travelling up, hopefully see a Chargers win, but certainly... get back into the action, Ronnie, for sure. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, you are heading up to the Derby. You are heading up to the BT50 Mazda Stadium in Ulverston.
Yes.
And, of course, Ronnie, the big chip out of all of this is that two of the most beloved sons of the Northwest Thunder, they are suiting up for the Hobart Chargers. You're Joe Chilcott and Viontae Daniels, and you're going up there to go into enemy territory. That should be a interesting matchup as well.
Should be a barn burner, as one would say.
They very well might burn the place down, depending on how it goes. What are your
absolutely?
I suppose from our perspective, Ronnie, how have you seen the men's team shape up, and game prediction?
Well, put it this way, I went to Chargers training Monday morning with Stewie and co, and had a bit of a look out there, and the locals were doing a really good job, and. Going into this, Viontae's looking good. Joe's looking good. Great leadership by Joe on Monday morning as well too, from what I've seen. When he talked with the group and whatnot. So it was really good to see. I think it will be a close battle once again. It's a bit of a flip of the coin because traditionally the Thunder have always been a step ahead at the start of the season, and the Chargers do come home with a flurry and seem to get the wins at the back end. So this is going to be a tight tussle. I expect some fireworks between the former players with Viontae and Joe. I think Viontae's got a bit of a chip on him. He needs to really lift a little bit more this season. I think Joe will be that crafty kind of guy out on the floor, but also a good leader as well. He's
been a really good combo 2-3 for a decade now.
Oh, my word,
as I always say, Ronnie, I went to college with that guy.
You did, absolutely.
But
you did.
I think we're going to be looking at that sort of that kind of changeover, Ronnie. We haven't really seen that since Sam Armstrong himself come down and wore that Chargers uniform many moons ago.
Yes, I remember that.
Been quite a callback since something like that happened.
Yes, no, I remember that. That was quite an interesting season. that was for sure. But look, I really think that this game will have some venom in it. I think we'll see that spark of the rivalry come back to a degree, just because I think the Thunder would claim that you've taken a couple of our guys. and the Chargers are, just trying and finding ways of recruiting. And, again, good local core. You've got Jordan Strasmer there, who was really good last season. I expect him to step up a little bit more this season.
Harry Griffiths with a really big off-season.
Yeah, Harry Griffiths had a bit of a big off-season as well, too, as you mentioned, JB. What I'm excited about, let's see here. You got Alex Bestwick, Archie Stewart coming into the team. Well, Archie was with the team last year and got some minutes. Alex Bestwick is in good form at the moment in UBL.
Oh, so massive. And he creates a real dynamic, Ronnie, where he can play a genuine if they wanted to play small ball, he allows you to play small ball. He's good. He is 6'4", but he's an undersized power forward. He's probably around a mid-range 3 in this league. It just creates a real different dynamic. We're going to see him at that level. But, I mean, my man, he's back. Knee looking after itself and all, Ronnie. The Wham Bam Jam man himself. Ollie Angerstein looking to get back onto the floor there. And that's another thing people forget. Didn't have Ollie all season last year, realistically.
Correct.
So you're going to try and get a season out of Ollie. You're going to see a bit more out of Jacob Richards, and they're going to flourish a little bit more because, Sam McDaniel isn't back.
No.
Jared Bairstow isn't back.
No.
So all of a sudden there's that ability to really step up and take ownership, but also relish what opportunities were brought thanks to a Bairstow and thanks to McDaniel, the leadership qualities, how to be a good teammate, whether, you're Sam who comes out and has 25 a game and lockdown defence and dominates both ends of the floor, or whether you're JB who can come out and have his night, but if Stewie says, hey mate, I need you to come off the bench, you relish coming off the bench and you make the most of that opportunity and show others you're committed to the team as well.
Absolutely.
And I think for some of these young guys and some of these young girls as well, and we've seen it in the girls' team as well, you've got to relish your role.
Yes.
You've got to make the most of your role because, for lack of a better term, not everyone's Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant.
Correct.
There are more people like, and I'll use an NBA term here, there's a podcast out there called the Knucklehead Podcast with Quentin Richardson and Darius Miles. Not meant to plug things, but I'm just saying. They get those guys to go into NBA teams and actually outline the idea. There are more people like us too, who play 15, 16 years, who play a role, who are professionals, than there are Michael Jordan, LeBron James.
Yep.
When you relish your role and you can be professional in that role, that is when your career as a basketball player or whatever you do is going to last, it's going to thrive, and you're going to get success. And I think when players start to realise that and get that balance, you start getting that harmony as a team. And I think that's something that JB in particular really brought to that men's program. Yeah, I could just go away and play NBL1 North or NBL1 West and go and be the man on a team and have 20 points, 10 rebounds every night. But if Coach Stewart says to me, I need you to come off the bench and I need you to manage this guy, I'm coming off the bench and going to manage this guy and I'm going to do my job for the team. And I think if some of these young guys can relish that as well, and even some of these guys that we are calling younger, that you've been around the program 10 years now, maybe it's time for you to just sort of take that little step back. Yes, you can produce, but you're as valuable. And Alex Finlayson in the women's is a prime example.
Yes.
Finney could be that starting guard who runs around, but she also understands you've got to be able to breed the confidence and the culture of the next generation. I think if we get that balance right with some of these young talented guys, with the upper echelon of talent, that's when you'll get your success. And that's ultimately, as you mentioned there, Ronnie, a bit of a chip on the shoulder for some players, different roles for some players, new people stepping up into new positions, into new competition. That's when you're going to see, who can get through, who can grit their teeth and play through it there. So, that'll be the real test for our men's team with that talent, I think.
Absolutely. I'm expecting this to be close. I just have a funny feeling the Thunder might just get this one but I wouldn't count out the Chargers this time round, JB.
Well, it's one of those ones there, Ronnie, that we're seeing a lot of that talent on the northwest coast that has become that core. They're always going to be tough to beat. It's going to be a barn burner. Again, another thing, though, that the Northwest Thunder have done well, they've announced it a lot of their locals.
They have.
But they've played their cards to their chest, to their trump cards.
Yes.
And whether that means that they are going really, really local with what they're doing, and we know the guys that are going really, really local there, and if they are, that's great. That's awesome. We're in for a hell of a matchup and a hell of a season across Tasmania. But I just feel there's probably something a little bit more that's just being held close to their chest. And I just wonder when that gets unleashed. And I'm like you. You do just have to think maybe a slight edge to the northwest.
Yes,
Slight edge.
Absolutely. 7:30 p.m. tip-off on Saturday night up at the Mazda BT50 Stadium there. And looking forward to being around the place. I'm not on commentary for that one. You've got Brad Cole and Moose Jerziger on the call there, so my assistance is not needed, so I'll enjoy watching the game. And then what we're both going to do after the game, JB, is we're going to get some interviews with some players afterwards as well too, and we'll get that up on the YouTube page over the next couple of days after that.
Yeah, get some initial reactions from coaches and players, and ultimately just really, Ronnie, we've got to gauge round one. We've got to gauge round one, and that's ultimately what that test will be about.
Absolutely. Well, funny enough, JB, it's come around so quick that I can't believe we're here and we're at opening night for both our teams. And, of course, next Friday night, we're back at the Netball Centre at Creek Road. And then, of course, we're down at Sorrel the following night. So we have a home doubleheader in round 2, and we'll focus a little bit more about that next week. Absolutely.
And, of course, there, Ronnie, we had that little bit of Summer League, which we're glad everyone supported us here on Chargers TV with that. Bigger and better things coming there over time, I can assure you there as well. We'll have some more club news next week, Ronnie. We'll try and get a bit more information that we can spill out publicly relating to the club. We're going to try and get a bit of a bumper show in next week, really try and get some information out for all things Chargers related. But we did need to get some content in at least for game one, at least for night one. And I can certainly say, Ronnie, through hell and high water, we've ticked that box.
We certainly have. We've done well, JB. And I think after a long day, that will pretty much wrap us up in this edition of the podcast.
Good call, bad call, excellent call.
There we go. That could be a new segment this year, JB.
I don't need the part owner of SEN to be suing us for IP theft, Ronnie. I think we can come up with something more creative than that.
Absolutely. All right, we'll sign off here from Swisher Hoops Academy. Great to have you with us on the podcast. Hopefully we'll be on camera next week for our bumper show. Until then, enjoy your weekend and make sure you tune in and watch the Chargers play and cheer the men's and women's team on, and we'll see you next week.